So, welcome to Currents here at Orvis. I'm Casey. I am the digital merchant for Fish and Hunt. Um, I wouldn't say that I've been fishing my whole life, but I've been fishing my whole life. And I'm really excited to be sitting here with Ashley White. Some of you may recognize him from our spring fishing catalog and some of our Instagram and emails if you're an Orvis follower. And I'm going to kick it over to him so he can go ahead and give us an intro and a little bit of background and how he got into fishing.
Hello, everyone. As mentioned, I am Ashley White, he, him. I am an angler, father, husband, among other things, dog lover, um, random facts of information expertise. I have been fishing probably for about 6 years now, but really have dived in deep over the past 4.5, where I was able to get connected with a local fly shop here in Minneapolis, Bob Mitchell's Fly Shop, where I was able to begin sort of my tutelage. I was a Padawan of the shop when it comes to being a guide, and so I went from taking a fly tying class to falling in love with the sport from a recreation standpoint, and eventually wanting it to become sort of like a career beyond hobby, to give the gift of fly fishing to others because it meant so much to me, especially moving to a new city with no family and being able to find a community that not only welcomed me but also wanted to show me how to make a living from being an angler. So this is just a brief little bit about how I got here, and we'll talk much more, sure, about like why it's so important to me, and I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to take Casey's thunder when it comes to the conversation that she'll be asking me about today.
Yes, we will jump into that a little bit more. But I think where we kind of want to take this next is thinking about aspiration versus inspiration for you when it comes to fishing in your area and what that looks like.
Yeah, so I think those are great terms from an aspiration inspiration side, and so I think back at majority of TV shows that you'll watch about fly fishing. They're on some beautiful salt flats or Belize or Costa Rica, and all of that is really wonderful. And it can be both aspirational and inspirational to a lot of people. But for me, finding the joy to be able to go to my local waters has been more realistic to me as I show up every day, every week into the space and finding adventure, inspiring adventure here locally, and breaking down barriers for those who live in urban environments or not far from them, who may not be able to go to Alaska, to go to Montana, to go to Belize, all of the major fly fishing destinations. The Seychelles come to mind. But if that's not a reality for you, um, fly fishing may seem so foreign that you won't even give it a try because you won't even understand how close it is to you, and how much fun you can have fishing in local waters, rivers, lakes, and those are the things that I look to teach those around me, and inspire those, especially in dense urban populations, that there's probably fish there, and you can actually fly fish there. And so it's so important to me to continue to share this message.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think that talking about seeing it on TV and these destinations and I think we spoke about this before, like romanticizing how fly fishing is romanticized. I want to steer just a little bit to that really quick. Do you think that brands such as like at Orvis or Sims or some other have a responsibility for helping shift that thought and that language?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. And so what I will offer you from a responsibility, um, I think that whether they are responsible for it or not, telling the full narrative is important, especially as you want to grow the sport from a recreation standpoint, from a diversity standpoint, from an access standpoint, because false casting in Montana with the fog coming off the water. That is a thing, and it is beautiful, and it does help people pick up um, a rod. But I do all of those things here in Minnesota, and it's still just as beautiful. It's still just as beautiful in Wisconsin. We have wonderful fisheries all around. If anyone did see the April catalog, like I'm in the heart of downtown Minneapolis, at our Stone Arch Bridge, um, fishing for smallmouth bass. They're pike in there as well. Such a great fishery, and I'm just wet wading. And it doesn't even feel like I'm in the city, even though it looks, you can very clearly see that I'm right in the heart of downtown. And that's also fly fishing. And that should be a part of the story. That should be a part of the films and the shows, or any of the film tours. Like, how do we show more of being able to pick up a rod in a city and being able to catch hundreds of species in some of our warm water, and also trout in some of the in cold water streams. So it's just great. I was in Cleveland over the Christmas holiday. So if you know a guy's name, is his Instagram handle is Get Fish or Die Trying. I hired a guy downtown Cleveland, walking through neighborhoods. And some people frown upon it, but we get that lake run steelhead here in the Midwest if you're a part of the lakes. And it was amazing, the urban environment, and pulling out these amazing chromed fish right from coming right in from the lake. Most people wouldn't even think about fishing in Cleveland, let alone trying to catch a steelhead run, right? Pittsburgh. Those things don't come to mind for most people when they think about it. They think of like further on each coast. And so it's like, wait, I can do this in Cleveland. I can learn to swing in Cleveland, and I can pull out a lake run steelhead. And so those are just some of the things that I think are really cool, that I think that are also overlooked in an experience, and learning how to provide exposure and access to people who want to do different things that may not be able to travel either as far, or they just don't know it's here. Also, it's such a surprise to so many people.
Yeah, I think that you really nailed it there. It's kind of like going in your backyard, right? Like, we have this thing called the art of the mini adventure, and I think that being able to open that up for people to understand that the backyard is can be just as good, and in some instances even better. So I think as we talk about this urban fishing and like being in like a cityscape, if you will, like helping people understand, what does, how does the land use vary? Is there a difference if you're urban fishing versus being out in the rural areas? Do you find it more public access than being out sometimes on those rural waterways?
Yeah. So it really, the regs depend on where you are. Some of the there are some private concerns. There are some um, national waterways versus state waterways or parks and recreation that may have different regs. And so what I recommend is that locally you're going to have to always check your regs. But what I have found, especially in the urban environment, that a lot of it's public, because of the cityscape that you're in. And so always check your regs. I will always tell you that, to make sure that you're legal and in compliance with any law or policy that is on the books. However, in these city spaces, the public parks and recreation, or public waterways, that you have access to, with just your simple, fishing license, you're able to access so much water and so many varied species as well, just based on the type of water that we have. It's a lot of warm. For me, the Mississippi or the St. Croix, they're warm water fisheries, and so we got pike, muskie, bass, sunnies. Like, you can pull out almost everything, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention carp. A couple of guys that I run with, they love fishing for carp. It's one of their favorite things to do. But it's not romanticized. Again, it's one of those things that people are out there. I don't hear a lot of anglers talking about just waking up and wanting to go try to reel in some carp, and they fight so hard. It's such a good fight versus some of the other fish that you may see. So I will always vote carp. If you are an angler, give it a try. They're spooky. You need a challenge. Try a different species and go out there and try to get some carp out of a waterway for you.
Carp for president.
Yes, for
That's
sure. We should put that on
it.
a t-shirt.
We should. I think that's a great idea. So when we're talking about urban waterways, and this is kind of like a personal experience for myself, and I've spent the majority of my fishing on the west coast and kind of inland waters there. And when I think of urban, I run into issues with like clean waterways. What are you feeling like for conservation in urban waterways? What do you feel like is being done correctly, or where we need work?
That is a loaded question. I think we could spend the rest of our time talking about.
Well, we still have
Um,
50 minutes, so
yeah, but there's a lot for us to unpack here, and so what I will offer you from a conservation standpoint is usually there's no simple solution. Um, there will be a lot of people with varied opinions, and the solution probably isn't as simple as we would like it to be. So as I have this platform here, what I tell people and what I will always advocate for is get involved however you can. So if you're an angler, pick up trash on the riverway, right? Very very simple way for you, and that's the easiest way, right? Join organizations that support conservation and support them to make sure that they have everything that they're needing to do larger lifts, right? If possible, run for or join some sort of elected position for you to lead the work. Um, in government, and there are multiple lanes from somebody just posting about how clean or not clean the water is, and somebody being an elected official fighting for it. And we're going to need all of those individuals in order to even have success. And so I tell people, do what you can when it comes to this way. And so there's not a simple answer. I think that in Minnesota, I live in Minnesota, we have wonderful water in a lot of places, but sometimes the Mississippi is we're up northern, and so I mean we can go to the headwaters to where it starts, but the further down you go, the more cities it runs through, the more issues you're probably going to have all the way down through the country. And so I would advocate is for people just to get involved. Um, we can sit here and argue about what's right, what's wrong, what's clean, what's not. There are definitely some things that are not clean, and fish that I wouldn't like eat out of the river. But what I advocate for is wherever you sit on that, get involved, do something. I don't care if it's just picking up trash, joining a cleanup, all the way until, if you care, join an organization or even get an elected position to support what you really care about and you're passionate about. Because, as mentioned, this is an all hands on deck. Everybody has the position to play. Everybody needs to play their role, and they need to play their role as authentically as they can and as passionate as they can in order to move the needle. And we see some wins in fisheries around the country where things are really getting cleaned up. We see some things working out in Florida in saltwater. We see things working here in Minnesota as well, in how we're cleaning up. But there's still a lot of work to do. So if you want to get involved, or you have a problem, like, let's not talk about it. Let's show up, and that's what I'll say around that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the mantra: show up.
Show up.
Talk about it all day long, but unless you show up and do the work, it doesn't change. There's no change, right? So
that's the goal.
That's the goal. So I think, when we met before, we talked a little bit about, like the younger generation and what that looks like, getting them into fishing. I think that would be kind of a next step for us here, is to kind of understand what your goals are there with kids and in urban situations.
Yeah. So it starts in my house, right? My daughter even as I was training, like, she was in the boat with me. Right? If you follow me on social media, on Sundays I'll do like a daddy versus daughter tie dye, and she wins every time, right? Like, we bet the dishes. So if all of the Instagram folks choose her fly, and we do it blind, they don't know whose fly it is now because I was losing too much. But even blind, she wins. And I do a lot of dishes in this house. but it starts in my house and inspiring those who I am truly responsible for to understand conservation, to understand how to be a steward of these public spaces, to understand how to recreate responsibly and love it. Right? She loves sitting in a drift boat, taking pictures, maybe not fishing all the time, but she loves being in the space, and I think that's where it starts. And as we think about what that means moving forward, again, we all can share this responsibility of finding younger folks who want to enjoy the water. Urban kids want to fish too. Don't let that be a myth that urban kids or black kids or brown kids don't fish. Like we fish, we grow up fishing as well. We don't grow up fly fishing though, based on a lot of the barriers. It's much easier to walk into a Walmart and get a $12 rod to go spend in the local waterway or that. And so we got some barriers. So there are other organizations, as mentioned, some of the organizations that I'm a part of, whether it be the shop, which is Bob Mitchell's, or We Fish, or Fishing for All. We partner with the Mayfly Project. We partner with other local organizations in the city to say, hey, you got kids, we got some things we'd love to show them. We got we would love to take them fly fishing and teach them some of the skills, and not to mention the many life lessons that are inside of fly fishing that can actually rub off on the youth. In an urban environment, though, there are challenges. I think, as we were mentioning earlier, it's really hard to convince urban parents to let their kids go out into the middle of the cornfields and feel safe with their kids. Right? We fish in really rural, we fish in really remote, in some cases, places which, from a psychologically safety standpoint, may not be ideal for urban people, or particularly people of color, or women as well. When you think about just a bunch of bros standing out fishing, getting drunk, like it can be really intimidating to people, for better, for better or for worse, in those spaces. And so urban fly fishing, for one, removes a lot of that barrier. When if I'm having a conversation with the parent about whether driving their kids 5 hours to the middle of nowhere in the woods, versus let's just walk down to the lake, and start casting and pulling out some sunnies and get the fly fishing bug in them. Not only am I helping them explore something new, learning new skills, but I'm also having an ease of their parents as we stair step them into the more remote trips, and we're building trust. We're building love of the sport. And so those are just a number of things, but the safety call, is very real, especially when I was getting started. Um, Being able to fly fish in a space that I felt like was designed for me, made a huge difference. Or being with people that I greatly trusted when going into those remote areas made a big difference in my ability to just actually focus on learning the sport, building my friendships, building the relationships out there on the water, which have been just parts and none. It's been such a great experience, but it came from feeling safe. And urban fly fishing is just one way to remove a barrier, in getting some of the kids who do not feel as though the cornfields or the drive through rural towns to our fisheries is actually a safe experience for them.
Yeah, and thank you for educating us on that. I think that's very important, and something that all of us can carry when we are out, on rural fisheries and such. Thinking about that, it's really important. So you mentioned that you do some work through. I'm sorry, what the name of the fly shop you work at? I know
Bob
it's Mitchell.
Mitchell's. Yeah, Bob
Thank you,
Mitchell's.
Bob Mitchell's. Um, I know you mentioned that you guys do some stuff with kids through that. What kind of programs are you running through the fly shop?
Yeah, so we work a little bit with the Y of the North, and a lot of this stuff is also still in planning, so it may not have been executed yet. But working with local organizations such as the YMCA, the Mayfly Project as well, which may not be urban, but definitely kids who need access to strong mentors, and wonderful wonderful learning out there fly fishing. The Fishing for All as well, which is run by Evan, which I can make sure that we post any of that information on this as well, when we put it up. He also works with a ton of high schools that his guides get the opportunity to go in. And so think of like fishing clubs, and so we would get to participate and teach kids how to fly fish from in the fishing clubs, which is a thing here in Minnesota. I think that is kind of weird coming from like Ohio, in a city, and I was like, wait, you all have fishing clubs? Yes, there's a group of kids who all hang out and fish together, and I'm like, where was that in my life as I was growing up? But we get to participate in many other activities, but it's all about finding the organizations and the kids. And normally, if you have organizations who have kids, they're looking for something for them to do, right? And they've been more than willing to be able to help us. Connect fly fishing with younger anglers as they learn the sport.
Yeah, I think that's so awesome. Not to derail here too much, but I come from the ski and snowboard industry before I moved into fly fishing, and we had a couple of programs that I worked with that I felt were super beneficial, especially to introducing kids to the outdoors in general, and getting them into something that they may not ever have a chance to do. So I'm a huge proponent. I'm a fan. I think that's super awesome to kind of start there, and I think it's stoke. It builds stoke, right? And then you build the next
Yeah,
generation.
yeah. I tell everybody like, hey, give your daughter a fishing pole, give her a fly rod. It is one of the things that I think is just important as you would your son. Like all the kids, all the young girls, like they love this, and if you give them the opportunity and access to it, they pick it up so fast. My daughter Ty better than me. She outfishes me. She cannot row a boat better than me yet, but that is on the horizon. She has made it very clear that she is looking to spend more time on the oars this year. Um, and since we're in the space to be able to do that, I'm gonna give all that I can to her, and hopefully, she invites her friends out. They learn something. They take that with them for the rest of their lives. Even if it was just that one time I was with Mr. White and we went fishing, and that becomes a core memory for them. That's what I'm looking for at the most basic level, all the way into I want to inspire each kid at a time, to think about outdoor recreation as a career. That wasn't even a thought for me, and even when it did become a thought, it was hard for me to financially be able to commit to it. Um, but if I would have started younger and found the pathways to that, my life could look different. And I wouldn't, as we were talking about, I wouldn't be like, oh man, I need to escape in a van or something like that. I could build a life in the recreation industry, um, and be able to represent a community or have people look to me and say I could actually do that, which is something that we don't often see, and that's why I loved the urban fishery April photo shoot, because that is where all the kids talk to me when I'm down at the Stone Arch Bridge, and they'll sit up at the top and they'll ask me questions from all the way at the top of the bridge. They'll yell at me, and I'm always thinking like they're gonna spit on me, but nope, they want to come down and like, hey, can I do that? Hey, can I try that? They think it's weird but funny, but then they want to engage with it, and I think those are the moments that are really important. But again, we got to show up, and we got to be present, and we got to give opportunity and provide access to the space, because they never would have said, I can go down there and fly a fish without even seeing it or someone that looks like them that they felt comfortable talking to.
Curiosity, right?
Yeah,
That's where it
stay
starts.
curious.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Um, so I think, as we're talking, kind of circle back to those urban waterways, and we've kind of hit on a few of these items, but some more advice for even like people that aren't kids that might be intimidated by any sort of waterway. What's some
Yeah.
advice that you can give to people that are in the urban living and would like to have that opportunity?
Look, if you have water, well, I live in Minnesota, as mentioned. We are the land of lakes, as you all know. There's fish in all of them. It's amazing what you can pull out of these lakes. And so from a from a step one is, don't be afraid to go try, right? Don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to try. And so if you see one out there, ask. Like, fish anglers, definitely don't have an issue with answering questions that happen so frequently out there. And if they catch a big one, please believe they want to tell you. They want to tell you about it. Maybe not where they caught it, but they want to tell you about it and how they did it. They may not tell you where, like exactly
Right.
where they were. But they will tell
Over,
you the story, and the
over
fish will be.
there
So they will tell you how they did it, and how big the fish was. Um, but go into your local shops, if you can. If you aren't, even even Dick's, for example. No knock to Dick's. They sell rods as well. Great for introductory. People may poo poo it on this sport, and I know I'm on the Orvis channel, but from a starter set, that's all you really need to get into it. If you have a shop next to you or close to you, walk in. I assure you that the staff there is going to want to answer questions and want to build a relationship with you that is beyond transactional. That is one of the things that I love the most about fly shops is most frequently their relationships aren't transactional because they're so small and so niche. Relationships have to be real and authentic. Sometimes they get a bad rep, but for the most part they've all been great, in providing information. Maybe not always access, but the information is there. The second thing I would add to that is you got to be prepared to do some homework, as you work your way into the community. Do some research. YouTube is always your friend. There are more than enough DNR maps and information for you to help scout and learn. Reach out to me on social media. I answer a ton of questions, and also direct you to resources, because they're all there. And if you can do your homework, and showcase that you want to do this, people will help you. And that's how I started. I put in a lot of time on the river. I spent a lot of time with folks, and people were always very helpful for me, regardless of what they were doing. And I just kind of just hung around the shop for a very long time and asked a whole bunch of questions, and they were just like, God, how do we get rid of this dude? If you're not gonna leave, then maybe we should give him a job. and here I am.
I am. Yeah, I think the one thing, you nailed with like Fly Shop is passion too. Like when you go in and you want to have a conversation and you start with a few questions, you really can tap that Fly Shop employee's passion about it. And at that point, it becomes something they're really, really excited to talk about, right?
Yeah.
And if you show that interest and you show up, they're going to continue to share that passion with you because they're just as excited about it as you are to get out
Yeah.
there. So
And the other thing, again, I know I'm talking to Orvis right now. But when you're starting, that gear is a hurdle. And so as we, especially in the spaces, like knowing that you can level up, as you get more proficient. That was one of the things that held me up the most. Was this is a it's a big commitment. There's lower end stuff for you, and I know that it's a spectrum. It even provides a spectrum at Orbis, but it's a big hurdle when you're first starting and you don't even know if you're gonna like it or you're gonna be good at it. But I tell people to show up and give it a try and keep working, and eventually, um, you kind of get addicted to it, which is my problem. I love new fly fishing gear and trinkets, um, but you just got to be willing to start, and you don't have to have the best of the best, um, but you can work your way there or piece your way there as well. But that's a major hurdle, especially for those who may not be as privileged in thinking about other things that they have to pay for. Let's get out there and wet weight. I talked to a lot of people about what wet weighting looks like, or just getting the right boots, um, and spending some time on these 100-degree days out in the water. Like I think that is okay, and we don't talk about those things enough. We don't talk about that you don't necessarily have to be in the top of the line. Gear for you to have a good time and catch a lot of fish. And I really think that's why we're all here, is to get more people to enjoy, to find the love of this sport. And usually once they do that, they reward, companies in particular, with their dollars, because they're leveling up. But to start, a lot of those things aren't actually needed, and they become a hurdle for people that they just sort of wash out. And those are the things I want. That's when I want to catch people, and either provide from a donation standpoint. You can rent gear from shops as well. But also, if you have a rod and you want to learn, we can go out and wet wade into the river, and we'll find some fish out there together.
Yeah. And in 100 degrees, wet wading sounds fantastic.
Oh my goodness, it is.
Especially if there's humidity, right?
Those are the things, though. Those are the things that I thought you're just like, oh no, but I don't have the right gear. And they're like, no, we actually can just walk into the water. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think
Because that's what you see. That's what you see in like Montana and Alaska and all those things. And so you associate that with that's what you need to fly fish, and that's not always the case. Though they do play their role, especially seasonally, as we were sort of unpacking there. But to get started, you really only need a fly and a rod and the rod setup.
Yep. And I think that also comes along the line of romanticizing fly fishing, right? Like looking at it and seeing someone in Montana or Alaska and looking at all that gear, and that becomes like anxiety for some people, and like that hurdle that they have to then cross to get that stuff. Do you so you said something about like donation. Do you know of any brands that are doing that, like where maybe like waders that, this is going to sound really maybe slightly weird, but like
Slightly used waders.
slightly used, but I mean, like, everything's washable, right? Like kind of like
Yeah.
you know, a new life cycle, right?
There may be. I will not be the expert on this particular topic, but I do know there's a ton of gear swaps. A lot of shops will do gear swaps seasonally as well. There are other organizations that have sort of gear lockers, it is what I would call them, that are I want to say Brown Girl Outdoor World has a gear locker, but that you would have to be close to them to do that. But I think it's sort of a best practice for a lot of shops to do gear swaps in this space, but from a larger brand, doing a donation or providing space for gear to be donated. I am personally unaware of that, but I would love to talk to you all about something like that. If we ever had an opportunity to be, after this moment, to say like, how can we get more gear into the hands of those who need it, so they can have this experience and be able to do more to make their dollars go further, but also still enjoy, this recreating in this wonderful sport, becoming an angler with us.
Yep. And I'm not signing Orvis up for anything, if anyone is listening.
Don't worry, I'm not trying to make you step on a landmine. I was just like, well, while we're talking about it,
well, why I brought it up,
let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's an opportunity, right, to lower that barrier to entry right there, and I think a lot of brands could step up.
And again, there may be. So if anybody's watching and they know, throw that in the comments for us. So not only can you educate us, but we can educate others that may be watching as well, and so they're able to either leverage it as a resource or provide the information to others as a resource as they're looking to get more people out there, especially if you live in a big city.
Absolutely, I think that would be a great resource if someone does know that it exists. I mean, we can always say that Patagonia probably has something they're doing. I just don't know about it. So you said a little bit ago you were able to make fishing a job, fly fishing a job.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about how that kind of came? You were in the fly shop and they said, how do we get rid of this guy? We give him a job.
Well, I started with taking like a fly tying class. When we moved here, we had no friends, no family, and I was just looking for experiences to help me find community. There's a guy for Bob Mitchell. His name's Aaron. He ended up being the first guy to take me out, and I tell everybody he ruined my life. And so I spent a lot of time with Aaron, and he always laughs and he's like, everybody wants to be friends with the guide, right? Because they know the best spots, they know exactly what to do. But he was so great at becoming a friend to me. And then later on, uh, one of the head guy for Fishing for All is Evan. Um, Evan spends time at my house. We spend time together, and we became, really good friends. And so my conversation and my passion was beyond, hey, this guy just, he's learning how to fish and now he wants to be a guide. Like, they got to hear my dreams. They got to hear my passion and the things that I'm working towards. And being a guide was step one. Learning how to do it is step one, right? Buying the truck, buying the boat. Like, how are we looking for land? What rivers are we going to explore? How do we build slowly the dream of, once I'm done and I can afford to stop working in the corporate space, for me to actually do what I'm really passionate about and wish I could have started way earlier in my life, to get me there. And so, um, my sort of 9 to 5 pays for my 5 to 9, and I leverage it in order to expedite my learning. And so, like, I think that they once they got to know me more and understand what my goals really were, in my background, because they got to see me beyond, I'm this corporate officer who hangs out and just likes to fish and does stuff. I'm like, no, no, that's not him. He went that route because, honestly, that's what I was told I was supposed to do, right? I was supposed to do this and go to college and then, like, get this corporate gig and work your way up the hierarchy. But my entire life, I wish that I would have gone into the recreation standpoint. I just didn't know how, because no one was there to show me, and I didn't think it was financially. And so when I'm starting to have these conversations about the things that I've done, they were like, "Hey, I was going to go to Sweetwater guide school," and I was like, "I'm doing it." I'm like, fine. They were like, COVID, boom, just blew up everything. And they were like, if you want to be a guide, I'll teach you. And so I spent every waking available moment on the river, at their houses. And I'm talking about from everything from, like, chopping onions for clients to, making sure that all of the spaces are ready for clients, to fishing with clients, to learning how to be a proficient guide and a steward of the land. Um, all of that has been a process of learning, and them teaching me, and not quitting, and showing up after bad days, showing up after, showing up in bad weather, making sure everyone is safe, learning how to, steer a boat, and spinning in circles a few times, right? Like, those are the moments, um, that just help them, I believe, showcase. And I know that a lot of people always are like, I want to be a guide, like, after a few trips, and then they just sort of fade away. But I believe if you stuck with it and you continue to show up and you continue to showcase your passion, um, and you are ready to start at the bottom, right? Like, I was not ready for clients when I started. I recognize that. Like, I was cooking a lot. You know, like, but I got a tons of practice, right? How many times have I gone out and just rode and leveraged, like, my daughter, and other guys to say, how do I do this? Like, I don't know how to do this, like, raising my hand and, like, I don't know how to do this, and spending time with them, just being able to teach me. And everybody won't have the time to do that, but I've prioritized that, and that has turned into, me being a guide for a great shop and a great leader. And I'm still learning, and I don't pretend to act like I'm the most proficient guy. I'm always humble in this space. There's a lot I still don't know, and I think that works well, especially in the community, because there are so many people to teach you, um, in this space. But it's a lot to learn, and it's a lot of time, and you also won't get rich off of it. So you have to know that, going in. But there is a way to live a good life, um, if you do go that route. But that's going to take time. And people wake up and like, I want to be a guy, and I'm like, why don't you actually see what guy life is actually like? And it's not a lot of fishing, to be honest with you. I fish a ton less than what I did before I joined the team. I watch a lot of people fish. I'm very patient at their missed hook sets. Um, and and I make a lot of food, and I give a lot of great customer service, and I row a lot of boats. I do not fish a lot. Um, but the joy in the gift of fly fishing is why I do it. That's what I want to give. That's why I feel like I'm here, is to give the gift of fly fishing. And if that is your true passion and why you feel like you are here, then you can do it. But know that it is not easy and it does not happen overnight. And you have to be fully committed to learning and doing the work.
Also, another outdoor industry job that might be romanticized, being a
Yeah, it
guide.
is. But that's what you say. Oh, yeah, no, it's a lot of hard work, day in and day out. But it's great work. It's fun work, but it is hard. It is hard work. Um, and like with other jobs, like there are people who are amazing at it. There are some people who probably shouldn't be guides. Um, but if you are out there and you are doing your best and you are learning, I believe you can be successful at it. But it does take time. You can't like just go on 2 trips and like, you know what, I'm now a guide.
Yeah.
You can try it, but I do believe it takes time, and I believe you should have some level of mentorship um, in this space, but it's more around stewardship and learning some of the ins and outs of the business. You can do it without mentorship, but you probably will make quite a few mistakes on the way in, and it just helps the learning curve if you can find somebody to actually support you or join a team.
Absolutely. And I think there's a whole other side of the guiding that's not, that's more than cast right there, right? There's
Oh
understanding,
yeah,
teaching how people how to read water. And I've had guide experiences from both, right? The full on
yeah, and
teacher, and then I've had the one that's just like, put it right there.
for sure. And I know a ton of guides who are really good at men, right? Guiding men in conversation with men. Um, Not necessarily the best with women. I've heard horror stories from female guides. I've heard horror stories from female anglers. Um, and we need more. We need more female guides. And to be honest with you, I may get some slack here, but women fish way better than men. Every client that I've had, there's a man and woman. The woman always is a better angler. Um, it's so funny that way. Like if you ask me to put my money on somebody, I'm gonna put it on the woman, and they're amazing um, at so many things. And I feel like that's another opening for us from an inclusivity standpoint, is for us to get some more female guys out here. But I feel like the dudes are, as always, like a barrier to the space, and that's something that we need to talk more openly about. And how are we bringing more women into the sport, and then how are we bringing more women into a career in outdoor recreation as a guide.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. It's tough though that that barrier has been there for a long time.
Yeah.
But
But even like on social media, we've seen them coming. They're getting bigger platforms, and the more we see them, the more young women, like my daughter, for example, um, quite a few that she really enjoys to follow, as well. She loves Awkward Angler. That's one of her favorite people. Like she doesn't engage because she's a teenager, but she thinks she's really cool. And I don't know if she'll see this, but that's like that is an example of inspiration for me. And so yes, I have a response. Like she sees me, but for her to see another woman out there as a guide, as a proficient angler out there, as a woman of color, doing it inspires her because she can now see it. So
yeah, that's so true. So I think I want to take this to like the future. Like
yeah,
what does 5 years look like for you in fishing? I don't we don't need to talk corporate.
yes, um, yeah. So my journey was, I just recently got my boat. So I got a clacker. So if you want to float down the river here in Minnesota, you let me know. We can do it. So I just got one of the eddies from them, but that took a lot of time. That's a minute. So 5 years from now, as I think about it, is one continuing to always learn about the business, right? Just being a guide to what is it like to have a team? What is it like to have land? What is it like to start thinking about putting up some little, bungalows or tents and then running a business, right? Right now, I'm an employee, and so I spend time with those who know how to do it, and so I'm continuously going to sponge up like what it looks like to grow, because the ultimate goal is land and lodge. That may not happen in 5 years, but each year I want to take a step closer. And so this year, my step closer was boat number one. Um, that took me a while to get, and normally that's the hardest one. Uh, so what is it? Like, how soon does boat number two come? I have no idea. How soon does land come? No clue. But each year in these 5 years, I'll be trying and probably failing at a lot of stuff that gets me closer to that goal, and that's what I'll be doing. Is each day trying to be a better guy, trying to be a better husband, trying to be a better father, and at the end of it all, um, I just want to be a great human and have inspired so many people to fish. That will all happen. I'll continue to work on those things over the next 5 years. But the ultimate goal is directionally moving to um, being able to provide a safe space for everyone to feel comfortable, psychologically and physically, to come be themselves, learn how to fish, eat great food, have a wonderful experience, and learn some stewardship. And if I can do that in 5 years, great. I hope you come. If I do it in 10 years, great. I still hope you come. If it takes me 15 years, I'll probably be old and not really rowing anymore, but I'll be able to hopefully put everything in place to provide a team to be able to do those things.
Yeah, I'm there. I'll be a participant at your lodge. Sounds wonderful to me.
Might start. It might just be tense. We don't. We'll
I'm good
get
with
there.
the
We'll
tech.
get there. We'll get there. Just cooking over a fire and tense, but that's a start. Just like everything else, I talk a lot about like a rookie season, and that's how I got into fly season. I believe you should always be trying something as a rookie, and so I started as a rookie guide and continuing to work on that. Um, and I'll just keep moving to my rookie stage every time I'm trying something new until I become good enough at it, and people enjoy it enough that they pay for it, and then my passion I think will drive me through all of that. I fully intend to fail a lot, um, but I also fully intend to learn a lot, and eventually it'll all work towards. But we just got to keep moving directionally towards the goal, to the dream. Um, I wish I knew how fast I would get there for you. I don't, but I know I will. I believe that. I truly do.
And show up, right?
Every
Continue to
day.
show up. Yep.
You got to
Yep.
show up or it won't get done.
That's so true. So true. Um, I think this was a really great conversation. I really enjoyed this. I don't really have any other questions unless you have something to add. I kind of thought we could wrap up on the 5 year plan and then,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I got one question for you.
oh boy.
Because you're in the industry, I want to know what is either your favorite fly fishing movie or book?
Oh man. So I don't remember the name of this, but it was about the Lost Coast in California.
Okay.
And it was about this gentleman who, somebody might be able to answer this. He invented a specific fly for fishing out there, but it was a historical based documentary. It was very cool. And to this day, I can't remember the name of it and can't find it to watch it again, which really aggravates me.
Oh, we're gonna have to figure that out. I know I put you on the spot there, so
That's okay.
uh, it's all good, but it's just one of the things I just wanted to see it just because you work in the industry. Just like what's your favorite? I'm always super curious about it.
Yeah, that one it was good because it was history, right? I kind of like history,
Yeah.
and so like kind of understanding like where he lived and how he started this and why he fly fished for sustenance to begin with, and then it just kind of people started to understand his fly, but then it also spoke to the decline of the fishery there too, and like
Yeah.
how it
'Cause
became overfished.
Was it by chance Rivers of a Lost Coast
That sounds
by
right.
narrated by Tom Skerritt, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
All right, we'll
I
we'll
think
go
that's
that
right.
Rivers of Lost Coast. That's what it is. Appreciate
Awesome.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's been super, super awesome to chat with you. I'm so
Okay.
glad that I was tapped for this experience to meet you, and I 100% am going to come fish. So
All right. You know where to
please,
find me.
I do.
Casey, our relationship doesn't have to stop after this call. I'll find you and we can continue our conversation, whether it be social media, email,
Yeah,
whatever it takes. But I look forward to you coming out, and everyone else thinking of Minnesota, Minneapolis, Wisconsin as a fishery and a destination fishery. We have some wonderful things that you can do here. If you follow. Whether it be myself at the Gentleman Lumberjack or Bob Mitchell's or Fishing for All, any of those three, you can get in touch with a guide and come out and check us out, man. It's beautiful. We got the Great Lakes up north, beautiful trout, brown rainbows, brookies. We can find them all for you. So just think of us. You know, when you think
yeah.
about anywhere else from a destination standpoint, got a business trip here, whatever, we can take care of you. Does not matter. Urban fishing is an amazing fishing experience, and if you haven't tried it, I would recommend it. Whether it be Denver, Atlanta, Cleveland, Minneapolis, give it a go. You'll enjoy it.
I'm in, and maybe some muskie.
Yeah, for sure. They're hard, but we'll try. What I'll say, we'll try to catch them.
Yeah. Fish of 1,000 casts, right?
Yeah, give it a go. I can't promise you. I could be pretty good on the others, man. It's
Yeah.
muskies are tricky.
Yeah, I'm down to catch some other species. You know, trout's been my foray
Yeah,
for a while,
we'll
so
go for a muskie, and we'll probably pull out some pike.
I'm
Um,
good with that.
but we'll keep going. We'll keep going and see what we can get.
All right. Well, sounds good to me.
All right. Enjoy your day, and thank you for having me, and thank you all for watching.
Yes. Thank you all.